Okay, the meeting will now start. Welcome to the meeting of the Policy and Finance Committee on Wednesday, 28th October 2015. There are no apologies, so we have a full attendance tonight. Are there any declaration of interest from members? Any declarations of interest? No? Okay. Chairman's report. I had one item to report, which was
the standing orders and delegated functions.
Yes, the standing orders and delegated functions working party has originally reported to full council. At the last full council, it was agreed that it would report into this committee, and the next meeting of that working party has not yet been set up. I will work with Paul to ensure that that meeting is set up as soon as possible, because it's been some time, I think, since the last one. Okay? There are no other urgent items. I would like to do two things. First is welcome Paul. I think this is your first
committee, yes.
As first clerking of this committee. So welcome. A warm welcome from everybody. And second, just to comment on two things that have happened in the town in the last week, which I think should go on the record. The first is the absolutely excellent exhibition that the History Society held at Harpenden, and we help fund the Harpenden History Group, and they do a fantastic job, and I think that should be put on the record. The second is that we give a grant to Harpenden UNA to run an event for the school children in the town, the years 11, 12 and 13. It was held very successfully last week. We've not yet sent the publicity to the papers, hopefully they will report it. But we had Mr. Lilly attend, as well as the director of Rockhampton and Tyrone all came and showed support. There were, I think it was about 80 kids there, and they did an absolutely fantastic job of running a UN convention on climate change. They were first, it just shows that we're in safe hands with the next generation. So it was a brilliant event. Okay, moving on. Any public questions in accordance with Standing Order 61?
Can I ask one in the public question?
I don't think so, because I think as a councillor you come in. Can you give me some guidance on that?
Well, I personally think you can ask a question.
Can she? Okay.
Sorry, it's just about the standing orders and delegated functions. You mentioned about the terms of reference coming to approval for the PNF as opposed to full council.
Yes.
Should that be at this meeting, or do we wait for the next PNF for that?
Well, they're not on the agenda, so we're going to have to wait till the next one.
If I may, Chair, only when the working party met and the minutes have been produced will they then come to this committee. As the Chair said, no meeting's been arranged, so there's nothing to report up to this committee.
Oh right, we've had our first meeting though.
Those minutes went direct to council.
Okay.
Because at that time it was reported to council.
Okay, so we have to wait for the next set of minutes
To come to
terms of reference.
Terms of reference will be amended to say come to Policy and Finance, and then it will come to this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Right. Let's go through. We're on agenda item 5, and I'd like to confirm the minutes of the Policy and Finance Committee meeting held on the 9th of September. Any comments on that, or can I approve it as a true record?
you.
Right, and now we'll go through the working parties which report into this committee. I would ask you if you would receive the minutes of the Christmas Carnival working party, the 7th of September 2015. Any comments? No, actually we can receive the minutes, thank you. The 20th of October 2015. Comments? No, we'll receive the minutes. The Food and Drink Festival Working Party, 7th September 2015. Yep. The Youth Town Council, and we'll take them as a group, on the 13th July, the 10th September and the 1st October. Yep. The Schools Liaison Group on the 2nd of October. And the Priority Setting Forum for Harpenden, Harpenden and Redburn on 23rd September. Okay. Okay. So all of the meetings have been received. All the minutes of the meetings have been received. Okay, we now move on to officers' reports and page 27. So, page 27. Right, the first item is the Freedom of Information Publication Scheme. The recommendation is that the amended public scheme be adopted. I will go through this in the normal way, which I will first ask for any questions of understanding.
Yeah, Chair, may I just ask, on page 28, what does the reference only mean in terms of the charges? It wasn't 100% clear.
It's a term that was issued under the scheme when it first came out. It basically just means inspection only.
Inspection only, yeah. There's no fee.
No fee.
Okay, thank you.
Right, anyone else? Any other questions on the family? Any comments or issues?
Just on page 30, class 6, lists and registers. Okay. Third one down, disclosure log, indicating the information has been provided in response to requests, recommended as good practice, but may not be held by parish council. So that's going to be removed completely, is it?
Never been done.
Well, why? Well, it said it was by inspection and preference only. So you could go in and have a look if you wanted to.
Yeah, but
and
I don't think you're listening, Councillor.
Okay.
What I said was that it's never been completed. There is no inspection log.
I don't know about that. Sorry, I would question that.
You believe that there is?
I know there is. I'm sure.
We don't hold a log, which is a record of each individual FOI that's been received. We do keep the FOIs and responses. So this is talking about the actual log, which is...
Yeah, I know what it means. I know what it means. I'm just surprised now that it's no longer up for inspection. I just wondered why. I'm not,
we have actually
not criticising. I just wondered why that...
We've actually had clarification from ICO in writing to say that there's no requirement for us to keep a log.
But I know there's no requirement, but is there any particular reason why? Have we received too many freedom of information requests, I think? Or not, I just wondered why, the rationale behind it really. Just maybe you could come back to me on that.
Yep. In fact, I won't come back to you, Councillor. What we'll do is we'll come back to the next meeting.
Lovely, thank you.
But it's never been kept. So it's taken out because there is no point in saying as well as there is information. It's not required to be kept and it hasn't been kept. Councillor.
No, just a little bit further clarification on that. I'm making an assumption that the wording that is struck out there has come from the guidance notes, and I think that we're reliant upon the fact that it says good practice but may not be held by parish councils. Now, which way we put the emphasis on the may?
No, what Paul just said was that we wrote and asked for guidance on it, and they said we didn't need to keep on.
So it's a don't need rather than, okay, I understand, thank you.
Sorry to be pedantic, though, but we're not really a parish council. We're quite a large town council.
We're actually deemed as a parish
Oh,
council, just
okay.
that we're large enough to be called a town.
Okie dokie.
Okay. Right, any other comments or queries? Okay, can I then put the recommendation to council?
My last
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
sorry. Can I just ask on page 29, class 4, how we make decisions, it's got the timetables of meetings, and then in brackets, council committees, working parties and town meetings are all on notice board's website or hard copy, and also agendas of meetings and minutes of meetings, as above again, so obviously all relating to council committees, working parties and town meetings. Bearing in mind, on the last full council meeting months ago, there was the councillor question about advisory committees, and the mayor's response was that all working parties are classed as advisory committees, and as such, due to legislation or following town council standing orders, they don't need to be in the public domain, the agendas don't have to be published, minutes don't have to be provided for any of those working parties. Do we need to also change that?
That's a good point. I think strike out working party.
Yes.
I'm not sure why it didn't go to full council, but obviously it didn't, so...
Okay, good point. Right, any other points? No? Right, can I then, with the change that working parties have struck out, they recommend the amended publication scheme is adopted. Can I have a show of hands? So that's 5 adopt again, 1 again, and so 5 for 1 again. So it's carried. Okay, town training visit. The recommendation here is that we have a civic reception for the Mayor and friends of ours during the visit in 2016 at a cost not to exceed £400. However, I have been asked in advance by Councillor Weaver if he could say a few words about the town training arrangements. Before that happens, what I'd like to do is take this recommendation, and we'll go through, we'll agree the recommendation, and then we can hear from Councillor Weaver, which is a more general point about training that he would like to bring to our attention. So, any questions of understanding on this point?
Yes, please. Could I just ask, the cost of reception, wine and refreshments could be provided at a ceiling of £400. How many people are we expecting to come?
About 100, isn't it? 80 to 100.
Okay. And could I just ask, it says the currently earmarked reserves of 7,500. I assume that's just built up over the years, has it? So do we put 1,000 into each year's budget for that?
And then we'll let it build up. There are major events which happen intermittently, and so you let it build up. At frequent times, what you do is you take a view on it, whether you should take that money out of reserve or not.
Okay.
But you let that money build up. For example, 2 years ago there was a major event in Germany. What was it? The 50th anniversary, and there was a major event which the mayor attended. And so some of that money was used for that. At the next major thing of either of Aldi or Colney, it may be us who has to host it. So it's as well having the money there.
And does that money cover the costs of the trips for councillors here to go over to the other towns?
No, it's only ever the representative, which would be the mayor. If councillors go, they pay for themselves.
Oh, right, okay. But that does come out of that budget as well, not for the mayor?
For the mayor, but not for the other councillors.
Okay.
So let's take the civic reception at a cost not to exceed £400. Any questions on that? Any issues or concerns? No? Could I have a vote, please? All in favour? Thank you. Councillor Weir?
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I want to declare an interest, a personal interest, because I'm a member of the Friends of Outside, but obviously it doesn't, so it's a personal, non-pecuniary one, but it doesn't affect that because I'm not voting. So I've just written out a paper, just take just under 2 minutes to read. If you like to follow, I've only got 4 copies, so just so you can hear what I say. Background to this, Harpenden Town Council has town twinning arrangements with Alzey in Germany and Cologne in France going back...
2 minutes.
Yes, under 2 minutes would be, for around 50 years. Until 2008, the standard rates have involved alternating annual visits to and from both towns for councillors. The costs have steadily increased over the years, up to around as much as £4,000 per visit. This could involve, if you've had the people coming to us and people going back, 8,000 in a year. Changing circumstances, taking into account a changing economic climate, a need for savings to be made in council expenditure, and a general public disapproval of perceived junkets, I recommended that an appropriate way forward would be to discontinue all formal council visits to these towns and out of them, but to develop a greater link with the friends of these towns who are also conducting annual alternating visits. The mayor or his deputy would accompany the friends to emphasise the civic connection. His or her travel and accommodation expense would be covered by Harpenden Town Council. With regard to incoming visits, the Town Council would host a reception for all visitors, around £400, as has been noted this time. These arrangements have worked very satisfactorily up until last year for several years, both to and from these towns. However, they have never been formalised. Having been involved with town twinning for several years, I would recommend Policy and Finance requesting a report from the clerk to be considered by P&F, taking into account the following suggestions. Proposal. Reaffirm a commitment to town twinning. 2. Recognise the principle of support for friends of these towns, as in reality we are delegating so much of the work which we used to do in town twinning to them. An SLA of £500 per annum for each group. Total cost per annum £1,000. Hosting a greetings reception for all visitors. Estimated cost, well, we put in 400, but I thought 300 to 400. Payments cover the travel and accommodation costs for our mayor or his or her recognised deputy. Estimated cost 300 or 400. Total cost per annum in the region would amount to £1,600 to £1,800, compared with pre-2008 costs that could total anything up to, and did total something up to 8,000. As there are unallocated reserves of around 7,500, I would think we could transfer back £5,000, leaving £2,000. Bearing in mind the suggested proposals and the changed arrangements, this would seem to provide an adequate safeguard reserve. Thank you.
Thank you. What I will take now is a vote on whether this proposal should go forward to be looked at by officers and come back to this committee, because we can't vote on this tonight. No. Absolutely not. So do I have agreement that this should be looked at in more detail by officers? Yeah. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Okay, moving on, health and safety policy. And let me just, page 33, 7.3. The recommendation here is to recommend to Council that the health and safety policy is approved. Do I have any questions of understanding?
Yes, I do. On the bottom of page 36, it states the councillors have the ultimate responsibility of the health and safety department in the town council, but discharges responsibility through the clerk. My question is really, how do we monitor that as town councillors?
I'll answer that, and then you pick up on.
Okay, fine, sure.
Right. We do it in several ways. As with anything, the first thing is that we have to ensure that there are policies and guidelines in place, which is what we're doing tonight. Yeah. The second is that we need to have an organisation structure in place. where there are clearly defined roles and responsibilities. Everybody knows what they are, and they then sort of, exercise those responsibilities, which we have done. And the organisation structure is from here. The third thing is that there is proper training, education, and a sort of identification of best practice and taking best practice into account. We monitor that through partly through HR, where there's ongoing health and safety education of staff. Yeah. And we make sure, for example, that the policies are updated in line with changing legal requirements and changing HR best practice. Yeah. And I'll give you an example. There is one item in here which is incorrect. It is about driving licences. People no longer will have paper to show that they paid their, you know, their tax on our cars. And so what the HR committee did, we took that into account and we changed the processes. And so people have to sign a form every year basically now to say that they've taxed and insured their car.
Okay, thank you.
So that's pretty much. Anything else?
Can I add 2 points, my Chair? Just picking up what you said about training. Annually, a schedule goes to the HR committees showing all training courses that all officers have been on, and then they can monitor what courses have been attended, are they adequate, I suggest some others if need be. And the second thing, which is perhaps quite important, is that you as councillors discharge your functions through the town clerk as the head paid service, as the top officer of the council. So that's the responsibility sort of lies there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, every year we go through the health and safety policy in detail. Yeah, and that is traditionally the responsibility of the chair of this committee and the deputy chair. But if anyone has a burning desire to read through several hundred pages of health and safety policy, please put your hands up now. To see Robin Rush. This is about the 4th year, no, it's about the 5th year I've done this. Okay then, so can I take any other issues?
I think the first point was who's responsible councillor for the town clerk.
Yeah.
Page 34, who signs that statement?
Town
Town clerk, yes, that was.
Because you've got the...
Mistakes we've made. Don't say underneath who has been signed.
Yeah. Okay, so can I take the recommendation as read? Can I see a show of hands, please?
Chair, with the amendment that you mentioned.
With the amendment that the deputy will have the joyous task of reading through the health and safety amendment. Okay. Moving on. Right, lift maintenance contract. The report is attached. It's 7.4 on page 53. Now, first, again, any questions about the lift maintenance contract? It's recommended that we award the contract to the Chiltern Lift Company for an extension period of an additional 3 years. Any questions about the report? No? Any issues or concerns about it? Are we satisfied?
It's out of order at the moment, isn't it? So really, truly.
The list's not.
Isn't it?
No.
Oh, so I thought there was a notice by it. Sorry.
It's my fault.
Oh.
I should have taken it away.
That's okay. I was just thinking that we'd better award it because otherwise we won't get the list fixed, I suppose.
Okay then, can I move to the recommendation? So we award the lift maintenance to the Chiltern Lift Company, the current contractor, for an extension period of 3 more years. I see show of hands, please. Okay, the merit awards. These happen every year. we have a list if anybody wants to ask the officers to see it, of existing merit award holders. It's given for, it can be quite confusing this, because it's given for somebody who has had an outstanding achievement and lives in Harpenden, yeah, or individuals who have served Harpenden in a particularly meritorious manner. Okay? Any councillor can nominate anybody, and what tends to happen is that a lot of the nominations come from the current or the immediately previous mayor, because they have been meeting a lot with societies and associations in the town over the years, and they'll spot people just because of what they do, what they're doing. But any councillor can nominate any individual. Yeah. We're being asked to agree that a working party is set up reporting into this committee who consider the nominations received from members. And
sorry, Jake, I'll correct you. The working party would go to town council.
The street council. And nominations are put forward to the working party by Friday the 13th of November. Now, first, is there any questions on this? Does everybody understand?
Yes, Jake. My question is, it seems a very short timescale to get nominations together for Friday the 13th of November.
I would just second that the two said. When I saw that, I just think if it could be extended by a week or two, that would be a lot more suitable.
Would that fit with the council?
To be perfectly truthful, it's a debate that's very similar to what we've done previously, but Heather Scott, who sort of organises from the staff point of view, always allows extra time by tracing councillors. Have you had any thoughts? Depending on the numbers that come in first round of the nominations. But by all means, we can put down the 20th as a starting block.
I thought it was a bit tight, yeah. So Friday the 20th, good point. Anything else, John?
There's something else, because it's nice that councillors get to know about it, but it might be nice in having that time for councillors to be able to be available for other people to not suggest people to them. So for councillors to have time to put out their thoughts, or perhaps there's communications we can do around the town, for example, putting a notice on the town.
No, it's the councillors who nominate.
So you can't have suggestions go to a councillor to nominate?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you will be. People will talk to you about it.
Yeah.
But we don't go out and solicit it.
Okay.
So I think Councillor Cameron just hit upon a point, really, which is that new councillors like us don't know all the people in the area that should be nominated, you know. So
yeah.
That's
well, what actually happens is, just hopefully, because I know that when I first became a councillor for the first 3 years, I didn't nominate anyone because I felt I couldn't compare. I just didn't know enough. And I think in in fact, it was year 3 I nominated somebody, and then year 4, and in fact somebody else had nominated that person anyway, so I left it. But year 4 was when I knew enough about what people were doing in the town. And what often happens is new councillors will nominate somebody who's already on the list, because some people have been running things for a long time. So it's well worthwhile looking at who's on the list already before you consider them, because it's surprising who's actually on it. Oh, and the other thing about this is that it's not a rule, but there's a convention that you don't nominate political people of any, yeah. They tend to be handled through honourable mechanisms. Okay.
Yes, is there a cap on the amount of awards we give each year?
We tend to give 3 or 4. We tend to give 2 or 3, and there is no official cap. So if in 1 year, for example, last year we gave the award to 2 firemen who served the town for 30 years, and I think we gave 3 last year. My memory tells me, but there's no particular cap. But it has to be special. You don't hand it out to 20 people. It's something which should be special, so there should only be a limited number of people get it each year. Yeah.
can I say we don't tell the person we're nominating them, but at the end of the day they have to be able to accept it before the meeting, don't they? They are contacted.
Yeah, there is, if I could warn councillors, there is a sort of robust discussion about this. Sometimes people, there could be a long list of nominees. It is not advisable to discuss it with everybody in advance because it's not a given that they will get it.
Where do we see them?
Just a minute.
Oh, sorry.
And just one question, please.
Sorry. The working party then, is that formed of the mayor, the deputy mayor and one lucky councillor?
Yes.
And when does that get formed?
That will be at the mayor will form that, and it will be the thing will be circulated. The list will be circulated.
That's an available date for all of those three councillors to get together, usually during the day.
So will we be made known of when that date is and when that meeting is, that working party? So we could come along and see the debate of how they select key candidates.
Yeah, people have come along in the past.
Can I just elaborate on something that the Chair said earlier? The nominations that come in are all kept confidential. The working party meets in confidence. It's part 2 meeting. When it goes to council in January, it'll be part 2. It's not until council have agreed the nominations who can accept the awards does it then get invited to come to the annual council meeting in April to receive the award.
In other words, it's not to be discussed.
Oh yeah, I can understand that, but it'd be handy to come along to see the process.
And so
It's just to show how one does have to exercise care at times. You can there can be a society or a body that does extremely good work. Often the president's name is put forward, but the president may be not a member, or a person who is not doing the work which has been done by one of the secretaries or somebody like that down the line. You just have to be very careful who is put forward.
this is for the work of the individual, not for their position.
Yes.
No.
Sorry, can I just clarify if we can see the nomination, or if the working party is in a closed group and so we can't be a part of that meeting, how can we see the
we've already discussed that. Well, 2 things. One, every nomination goes to full council and you'll see it at full council. The working party only recommends, it doesn't decide. Full council decides.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So, but what happens at the working party is the pros and cons of every individual are discussed, and that's then listed. And it's usually just around is that person's figurehead for that group, but doesn't actually do the work. It's things like that. It's not personal.
I should know. Is that in blue when it comes to?
It's blue. In blue, always. Yeah. But the idea is to pick people who really have worked hard for the town. And often it's people like the firemen who, to give them something that otherwise they would not be recognised.
If we get too many, I think it is appropriate we can roll some forward to the next year if it's still relevant.
Yeah.
So there's no guarantee then, of course, we'll get them.
Yeah, that's right. They could be. In fact, one from last year I know is going to come forward to this year.
Can I ask, have we got any roll over from last year to this year?
Yes, one.
We have one.
Yeah.
Might be useful to have a list of the people that had received it before that we
I've just
start.
said that that's
Okay.
held by the officers. If you want to go and ask them, they will show you who has it. Yeah, because as I said, I nominated somebody who already had it, and because they did such outstanding work, and then I found out they had it. So somebody else had the idea before me. Okay, so can I? The recommendation is we take 2.1.1. Unless there's any other questions, can we have a vote on that, please? 2.1.1. Unanimous. 2.1.2. With the changes to the Friday council.
Yeah.
Okay. Unanimous. Thank you.
Chair, sorry, can I just, we are looking for another councillor to sit with the mayor and deputy mayor on that working party, so if anyone has an interest, would like to do that, if you could give us your name, I can put it forward.
To the mayor. Yeah.
We can put it forward.
Okay. The next one is that the promotion of Harpenden Town Council via social media. And the recommendation is set up a Facebook page. I think it's self-explanatory. Are there any comments? Judge.
I'd like to speak in support of this. I think there's a lot of work that the town council does that perhaps people who are at school or a bit older, or like there's people of all ages on Facebook now, and it's a really good chance to talk about the positive things that town council are doing with lots of different pictures, lots of different graphics, get people involved. The only thing I wanted to add was I noticed on the recommendations it said that there weren't any financial implications associated with Facebook, and that is true. But especially when you set up a Facebook page when you are a group or a person, or if you set up any manner of page, the people who like your page don't necessarily always see your post, because due to Facebook algorithms, they get you to pay for boosted posts, as well as advertising posts, and put forward people who put your page in front of people who might see it to like it. In this regard, I know that it can be very inexpensive to do this, and it would be something that I'd recommend that we do straight away. I think we should see how Facebook goes, and I don't think the town council should really be seen to be frittering its money away on things if they're not viable. But if it's something that people are starting to engage with, and we can see that there's a chance to amplify it, that might be an interesting route down the road, because I know for this £10 you can get 4,000 people to see your post. So that was just something I wanted to add
I think
in
it's
the
a very good
future.
point. So in other words, what you're saying is that we'll put it on, just as an individual would, or any other organisation would, that what we're not going to do is to start to boost it by increasing our digital footprint and by paying for advertising.
Yeah, but I think we should be open to that in the future, but we also should be aware that if the results of our Facebook impact aren't perhaps as great as our Twitter impact, that might be a reason why.
It could, yeah.
I think it's a good idea, but I'm just concerned about focus web pages and how we would prevent that from happening.
You can't.
How do we monitor this? We talked about the council officer would be monitoring the Facebook page for the same thing.
No, not yet. Okay. Yeah. I think the council officer has to monitor it, and in fact I think council should monitor it on an ongoing basis and kind of report anything that's happening on it. And that we take a view, if we start getting trolls, we start to take a view on what we do. It's not happening on Twitter, so I think it was
No, I haven't put my hand
no,
on.
I thought you okay.
Right. I mean, on the vein that we're going on, 3.1, I'd like to change the word "this page will have facility for moderation and viewing posts for the members of the public." I think it's something that should be done, particularly in the early days, just to make sure that we're not being abused.
Yeah, I think we need to moderate it.
It's a must for me, in order to be able to vote.
Yeah.
In favour.
Yeah. Because it's not pleasant. A lot of people will read it and they don't want it.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just wanted, also in terms of bogus pages, if you ring up Facebook and you tell them that it's an account pretending to be your account, they will push over the likes from that page onto your page and delete the other page as a point of interest.
That's interesting.
If you can prove
If you can prove it, yeah. Okay. Anybody else got any comments or queries about this?
Sometimes Facebook can be all-consuming, can't it? I'm just wondering about man hours, really. I know you're just going to post stuff out, but are you actually going to, if people are commenting and you start sort of a
Well, I think we have
dialogue,
we're going to have
can
to
be
have
quite.
we'll have to try and see what happens, because you're right. It can be, and it can be rather than sort of not
Well, you can start off trying to be helpful, and then you end up getting dragged into all kinds of debates and things.
That's
and
right, yeah, you have to.
So, it can be quite time-consuming, that's all.
Well, I think what we should make it is just a positive page which says what we're doing and events
Like
which
the
are
fifth.
happening, and people can post their events on it, if other societies can post their events on our page. If it starts, it is absolutely not political, so there should be no political debate on it. It's the council site, and it should be very positive, I think, and we stop it in any way not being helpful, positive, and informational. Yeah.
If you are going to say you need to facility for moderators, how does that work? The session come here before it goes on?
No, people post and you take it down, pretty much. You can't, I think you can set it up. No, people will post and then you take it down as they post.
It's done that way around. Being reactive. You want to, that's probably one of the...
But then what you can do, I believe, is block people.
Yeah.
So if somebody makes a comment, you just block them.
I just wonder whether you need to amend the recommendation, put that into it, but you don't do.
No, that's just part of operational
It's
management.
normal.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
David, would you?
No, I
With this list?
So mine was that I won't be able to support this motion unless 3.1 says this page will have the facility to moderate, and we've got the insurance that it will be monitored and moderated.
Okay, can we change that for, can we put that in?
So that's a formal proposal to amend.
Okay. Do we have agreement on that? Yeah.
sorry, Chair, just one point. We haven't got to be friends of... sorry. What happened at District was, when they did it there, every councillor wanted to be friends with every other councillor. And before you know it, you had 50 people all wanting to be your friend via the council sort of Facebook page. And then all their friends want to be your friends as well. So it multiplies very quickly. You're getting non-stop emails by people asking to be your friends.
Yeah.
So I hope we won't be penalised by saying, no, I won't sign up and say to be a friend, because otherwise it just generates so many...
Yeah, well, you just ignore it.
Yeah. No, I was referring to all councillors aren't going to sign up and say we're friends of the town council Facebook.
Or maybe you want to.
Well, yeah, but obviously to generate, I mean, we're only 16 of us, obviously 50 odd, 58 in St Albans.
Yeah.
But be warned if you do.
Don't you have to like the page to be able to get the feedback?
Yeah, I think
from
there's a discrepancy between what you're talking about and what we're talking about.
Okay.
So I'll explain it later.
I'm sure you can expect it. Ladies' terms.
So, we've agreed the recommendation. I'm lost track of the vote. Yeah, can I take recommendation 2.1? Yes? Okay, so unanimous. Yeah? Okay, moving on. Risk management and register. The risk register is looked at every year. And this is what one of the things that we'll be looking at,
Yes.
unless anyone else would like to volunteer. Any questions of understanding on this one? No? Any issues?
Any volunteers?
Any volunteers?
How many pages? 100, isn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Close to 100, might be slightly over.
Yeah. Okay then. Can I take recommendation 2.1? Do you agree that the risk register is approved subject to any amendments?
Goes to council too.
And it will go to council. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Joanne. Okay, our place. One of the committee members of the Our Place project, Hilary Taylor, has sent a question. Basically, she's saying about the background is in here. She's saying how disappointed the committee members were that the Our Place proposal failed, and that GCLG had asked for the remaining funds to be returned. What she would like is to continue with the project, and the HCC remains as one of the stakeholders. I'll read her 2 questions on this, and then we can decide what to do. While the decision not to provide further officer support is disappointing, a successful project will need HCC as one of the stakeholders. Should the project be able to re-establish itself and perhaps secure funding or resources from other sources, I would like to ask that we be potentially allowed officer time meeting space in a similar fashion to the various other working parties and steering interest groups that work in the town's interests and form critical components of Harpenden's current and future development. I would be interested to hear HGC P&F vision for this project into the future. Yeah. Now, just to ground this in what actually happens, there is the working parties of the town council have officer support because the majority of those working parties are doing either events or running things that are directly related to the town council. I mentioned the Christmas Carnival working party, the Food and Drink Festival, yeah. The exception, which is an exception of any sort of way, is the Baptist Friends working group, where the town council representatives go, both councillors and an officer. However, that is because in a funny situation, they are working on our behalf. They are providing free resource to run one of our facilities, the Baptist Springs Nature Reserve. Yeah. So that is why the officers are going. This is slightly different. Yeah. This is something which has clearly been done on behalf of the town. Yeah, and looking forward, we've said that David, you are the representative on the Our Place group, and so we're happy to put a councillor onto the group. I think one of the things we could maybe add is that we'd be happy to provide meeting space if meeting space is available, and it's one of the reasons we're going to have to talk with the, sort of get more meeting space available for groups like this. Now, the real issue is whether we dedicate officers' time to it, and that's where it gets trickier, because this is the real cost. The officers are busy. It's difficult to know whether the time could be released, and it means we actually have to spend money. Now, Our Place, we're paying for officer time. They're paying for both officer time and meeting space. That's what they were spending their budget on. But the question is, are we happy to give them a grant so that they can buy officer time, because we'd have to go out and buy it? Given that, I will also say there is a lot of interest in it. It rather fell apart towards the end. There was only like 3 people at the last meeting, and partly because they didn't get the grant, I think.
How much would that grant be?
It would be thousands. I don't know, but it would be thousands.
If I may, Chair, what we'd recommend them do is put an application to this committee under the grant application scheme that we have. Usually a maximum grant there is £500. It can go higher, but that's the recommended amount. But what they'd have to put forward is a case of what they would use that grant for. Could be a meeting room somewhere, it could be some advertising, some marketing, some set-up costs or whatever. If I may, Chair, with regards to the staff time, we would have to take a view as to how long it's going to take us to support that group, and almost certainly come back to this committee with some information before we actually commit ourselves to that.
And it would be an issue because staff time is clearly extended. Yeah. Well,
I was just going to ask how it could carry on without officer time being
they would do
spent
the work.
they would do the work, won't they? Yeah. Okay, I understand that now, thank you.
Yeah, just basically, it seems a shame that they had to return the money back. Very disappointing, really, and it just seems that they only just got started when it was sort of the plug was pulled, I suppose. So, I would really like to support them as a council.
I think it's a great shame.
It is a great shame. So I think we should leave the door open and just sort of keep a dialogue up with them and just bear in mind, find out how much officer time would be required, and just help them through
then again,
a difficult period.
Then again, they need to be every other association in town does their own administrative work.
Absolutely. I don't know.
So why don't they?
David Heritage, have you got
Oh,
anything?
well, I only was asked to join it last week, so I don't
Oh,
really
right,
know.
I see.
Sorry, we haven't met or
Okay.
talked to anybody or anything. Just the mayor approached me and asked me whether I would be happy to sit on it, and I said yes, but I haven't taken any further than answered an email.
But I think it's a very worthy group. But the issue is going to be expensive officer time.
Absolutely.
When they could be writing their own minutes and.
Okay.
That's what they want. They want somebody to organise meetings, manage people's times.
But they do need a bit of structure in their setup.
Yeah, you
And then-
mentioned
But then
to write
they
to you
should-
and
Yeah.
write in.
But the structure, as I said, every other group in town doesn't. So,
Well, first point of information, then I've possibly got a comment to make after that. Am I right in assuming, unless I've misread, it's not exactly clear why the money's going back? Is it because its time expired? Was it only for 1 year?
no,
Or
because they didn't.
it's because it... Okay, fine. Right.
Is there any chance that they could reapply for it, do you think?
That'd be up to them.
So it's not a done deal then? They've still got an opportunity
I don't know what the rules are, but it would be up to them. It's their group. The whole thing about these things is that it cannot be run by the town council. It has to be run by them.
Mm-hmm. So when we say we participate... Oh, sorry.
Hang on a
Sorry.
minute, George.
I'm worried that I'm going to ask a silly question here, but I wondered, as a point of information, why the underspend was so great compared to the grant that was given in price. This is like a point of information. No?
Basically, we applied for the maximum grant we could
Oh,
get,
okay.
and we got it.
Oh.
But the reality was that the cost and the schemes and the progress going forward was not made.
Okay.
So they didn't progress it, and the only cost which has been alluded to earlier was staff time and office, mainly meeting room time. We allocated this room, we charged it out accordingly, hence the balance that we returned.
Thank you.
Right then, having asked the question, I'll then go on from it then, and it's come out in conversation there. Is it possible that the route of reapplying for the grant aid could be followed first, or for the locality budget?
I don't think that's up to us.
Before we go, well, can we?
Without checking, I
Yeah.
don't think you can reapply. I think the scheme has gone.
Right, okay, fine, I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
There was
yeah.
strict deadlines for different stages of the
Right.
grant we originally applied for.
So we're saying boat list,
Yes.
sailed, okay.
But what we're saying is that if you want to set it up, they're setting it up to look at the future cultural life of the town and look if there are any other grant providers who could, or public institutions who could help them in doing something. They've missed the boat on this one, which is what that airspace group was asked to do. They were turned down.
Chair, I'm happy to report back to this next committee meeting, if we've had a meeting beforehand, on their ambitions, names. If they convene a meeting, I was just asked to be, they've asked for a council representative to be on their team as such. I volunteered to be that person. So I'm happy to bring us all up to date.
That would be excellent. Actually.
If we've had a meeting.
I think this is well worthwhile and needs to be supported. But I also think that the group involved need to take responsibility, and it can't be just handed over to the town council. they need to take responsibility.
That's how we to formulate that one rather than us making proposals to full council that we go for a grant at this stage. I don't think it's for us. I think it's very much for something to come to them and we consider it at such time.
Yeah, the ball is entirely in their court. But they do have to understand that our grants are 500 numbers.
Absolutely,
I
and they generally
I'll
want
guide them accordingly, as and when.
Yeah. Any other questions before we take the recommendations? No? Okay, 2.1.1. It's noted that the Anthony grant is returned to locality. Agree? And it's noted that Council of Heritage has been appointed to the steering group. Now, do you want to have other recommendations in there that we recommend to them that they... can I just, not a recommendation, a statement that the Town Council is supportive of the aims and objectives in this? Yeah?
and look forward to hearing from them in the future.
Yeah.
And it's then very much for them to
Yeah,
steer themselves.
it's
And
up to
that
them
will
to convene a
obviously go
meeting.
back
I will attend.
Yeah.
Yeah, subject to other commitments.
Right, moving on. The forum advertising charges, we're now on 7.9, page 65. The recommendation is that the charges for advertising in the forum news are to be considered, and members advise the charges for 2016-17. Does anybody have any questions of understanding about this?
Yes. On page 66, there are a number of options raised in terms of what charges there could be. But my question is really about what the competition would do, because if the charge in the forum exceeded that they pay elsewhere for a competitive publication, they would go there. So I just wonder where the limit is,
The simple answer is I don't know if there is a limit.
Mm-hmm.
We've just structured our charges on what we want to receive.
Mm-hmm.
With regard to the actual publication, I'd make two comments. Firstly, the forum is produced 4 times a year. 12,000 copies are produced. It goes to every household and business in the AL5 postcode.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone advertised in the forum has got a good distribution.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, which is probably more important, is that there is 1 or 2 competition publications in the town, but Town Council does not have an advertising team. All the adverts are placed from people contacting us. So there's minimal staff input in trying to obtain adverts to go in it. The only input we have is the articles and the layout and the structure.
Okay, so I was just wondering how much. I suppose it's really, if we knew what a competitor charged, we'd know a sensible rate to set this to. Yeah.
I think it's also down to the size of publications. Our one
Yes.
is an A4, X number of pages. Others are smaller A5 that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there is, to answer your question, Councillor, there's no correct answer.
Right.
It's just, at the moment we're charging £71, we have done for a couple of years. This time we think it's probably a review, and the options put forward to you are for members to decide A, if you want to increase it, and B, how much.
Thank you.
I mean, is there any merit in making a comparison to, say, the Harpenden Directory or something else like that that's going out, which has purportedly similar circulation, to absolutely ensure that we're not overcharging? Or is it worth looking at?
I'm sure we can. As I've said, it's all down to the size of the adverts and...
Yeah. That's something we've got that stipulated, isn't it?
We have, yes.
Page, 8 page, quarter page.
Whether the other publications have that sort of
Generally they
structure,
do.
I don't know.
I mean, generally they do, but there's... Yeah, I'm going off the cuff. I'm not quite sure whether there's completed A4 that way or whether it's actually A5 they charge their charges on. That is, we need to look.
Usually the way they do it is they do it on a portion of the page. So they'll say, full page, half page, quarter page,
sorry.
or 4 lines, if that's what it is.
Going back on that one, I noted in the report there that basically things had dropped a bit over previous, and then that was following on with Councillor's question there, was the thought that crossed my mind was, are we being competitive? Are we out of the ballpark? And I think that information I would find it desirable if others do, before I can make a real decision on it. But we stick with our charges for the moment and probably just go back and just have a quick look and say, are we off piece?
When's the next additional bill?
This one coming into effect until next year.
Okay, so we've got time, we can take this to the next. Okay, so can we have a competitive review?
That's what I propose
It's just
to
things
be
that
fair.
happened in business.
Should we return interest?
Could we reduce the number of pages? Would that be a cost saving?
That's what it says,
Yeah.
it's £1,400 if we reduce. Any other questions?
I was being facetious, sorry.
So I didn't hear, sorry.
A question whether Councillor Canfield should declare an interest as he's a trustee of an organisation who advertise in it. Sorry, I was being facetious.
Excuse me, I'll leave the room before I burst my side.
No, sorry, I was...
Okay.
Our apologies.
Councillor. Okay, so we'll receive this back at the next Quality of Finance meeting. Okay, park hall fees and charges. We're recommending 50 an hour increase in fees and charges. However, Friday daytime charges are equivalent to Saturday charges, and we're saying that they should brought into the line with Sunday to Thursday to improve usage on a Friday afternoon. So, comments? Craig?
Sorry, it was just the commercial hire is down 15.5%, and I just wondered if we'd had any feedback from people as to why they weren't hiring it, anything we could learn from that.
The only information I have is that they are no longer businesses.
Oh, okay. That's a useful piece of information.
I think a lot of the people who hire all the things like they do hockey classes and things like that.
School dancing classes.
School dancing classes. Yeah. And sometimes they're relatively small businesses, and people close them down or do something else for a while and come back to it. Okay, any other questions? No? Well, can I take the recommendations then? A 50p an hour increase in fees and charges. Unanimous. And Friday daytime charges be brought in line with Sunday to Thursday daytime charges. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, the budget. Before we go into this, you'll have all read this in great detail. I'm going to give just a few words about budget. What the budget is doing is setting down our expectation for costs and revenues in 2016-17. The budget, some of you will be very familiar with budget setting processes, others won't. What you do is you have to start somewhere on a budget setting process. So what you do is you start with this year's actuals, usually actuals come budget as far as you know. So you do an estimate to the year end, and then you take that as your basis for next year's budget. But then you make a series of assumptions about every line of revenue and every line of cost. And those assumptions are based on several things. They're based on, one, what you know is happening generally. So you know, for example, that the government has recommended that staff fees go up by 1%. Yes. So you would say, okay, staff fees go up by 1%. You know what pension costs are, and so you would take that in line with what's been recommended about public sector pensions. So they tend to be given, and there's not a huge amount of leeway around those. Other things are more debatable. Let's give you an example. A big one is heating and lighting of this building. What is that going to be? you have to look at, what Paul will be doing is looking at trends and looking at existing costs and taking a view on both price and usage and then coming out with a figure. Yeah? But before he starts, he needs some general assumptions. Now, every line of the budget will have a set of assumptions attached with it. Sometimes they're very complicated, sometimes those assumptions could run to 2 or 3 pages of background work. Yeah, but he needs to know what they are. Because this is an iterative process, by that I mean this budget will keep coming back. We'll be seeing it again. You can change the assumptions. All he wants to do is to get a set of figures and see whether it balances, whether revenue and cost balance, and whether there's sufficient money in the reserves. So that's what we want to do. The problem is there's a gap. That's when we have to start being creative with the assumptions. But typically what you tend to do is you make assumptions for next year similar to this year, if it's under our control, or you change them in line with a recommendation from a committee. It could particularly council. Yeah. Any major change to assumptions, like precept going up, is going to have, all of this is going to have to be agreed by full council. What we are doing is we're getting a case to go to full council to agree. And we're going to do the donkey work, basically. We go through all these assumptions and we go round and round it until we're near balance and everything's sensible. And then to full council we'll send a recommended budget, but it might have 1 or 2 things saying this assumes that the precept, this happens to the precept, this happens to these costs, this happens, these projects are included. Yeah. And full council then agrees. Okay or not? No. So don't think by agreeing now, that's it, it's not. This is, as I said, is that in line with your understanding?
Exactly that, yes. And the only additional point to that is in recommendation 2.2, it should give me a target to work to at the first stage. A precept of standstill, or if you're so minded, a small increase.
Yes.
But I personally, Chair, as we talked the other day about setting it at a standstill budget, see how the figures come out, come back to next meeting and you'll see the variances, you'll see the highs and lows, and then you can use some judgments.
You have to start using discussion. You can't do anything until you've seen that first cut budget. We haven't got it yet. And so what we're being asked to do is to agree the assumptions that Paul uses for his first cut of the budget. And we've been asked first to agree the process, which is the series of meetings we have to discuss it. Then the influence, we have to know the influence and pressures on the town council, which is some of the assumptions Paul's already looked at. Energy prices, he's looked at all the contracts we have. We'll set 3-year contracts, so we can't vary things on many of these. It's just filling in the figures. In other things, the contract might end halfway, so we have to, halfway through the year, so we have to make an assumption about what's going to happen after that. Yeah. So this is a complex model we're talking about. I'm not even going to talk about the precepts, how that, the number of, anybody who's been involved in public sector finance knows that that's complicated. And we also we try to wait as far as we can to see what county and districts are going to do with the precept before we set ours. Okay.
Right, just I realise this is very early stages and everything's approximate and we're trying to feel our way through here. It was just on page 76, we've got the estimated one-off spend, say £100,000 in here, which is 3 times the approved one-off scheme in 2015-2016. I just wondered if there's any early information that hey, that's the sort of number that we need for one-off scheme.
Actually, it's a bit low.
Oh, it's a bit low.
Fair. When I first wrote the report, to be fair, it was just a view of talking to colleagues in the office, what sort of thing is going to be putting forward to as extra providing growth for next year. Trying to get a feel of it, a flavour for that, so that something can go in this report so you get an idea of what could come in. I'm actually in a process of compiling some schedules of all the returns for colleagues, and it's looking a bit higher than that. But there's stages I have to go to before that even comes to this committee. So we have a management meeting in-house to sort of dwindle it out before it comes forward here. So just to give you some guidance of what could happen and what the effects of that would be.
But these schemes, if there was a large figure like that, you'd have an appendix point which would tell you exactly what on the profit budget. Yeah. And again, I'm saying it's a guesstimate at the moment. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, one other question. I wasn't sure, I think there's government legislation on the amount of increase for the precept in hand, actually.
Yes, no, not at our level.
Oh, not our level, I see.
No, what they've said is if town council start playing around with it, there will be.
All right, all right.
But what the government does, the thing you have to watch here, and you'll hear a lot about this, is localisation of support for council tax. In 2015-16 we got 42,000 from SABC to mitigate the decrease in the council tax base due to changes in the funding of council tax benefits. Now that money actually comes from central government, and it goes to SABC. They take a proportion of it and give it to us, in line with the number of ratepayers compared to the district as a whole. At any point, the government could stop that or reduce it. So that money has historically been at rest. And so any budget we put in has to take into account that money just might. So what we've done in the past is that money has always been allocated to projects that could be stopped. It's never been used for ongoing because it could just suddenly you start using it for your ongoing operations and it stops you begin to get a problem.
I do know parish councils that actually use it for their ongoing budget, so at some point they're going to get hit.
Well, they're going to have a big problem. That's what we've got with them. Okay.
Can I just is public question, not public question, but questions now?
Yeah.
Okay. Firstly, I'd like to thank the officer for such a comprehensive report. Finally being able to get my kind of mind around the finances of local government. And I particularly like to support the recommendation in 10.2. Which sort of leads me into sort of one of my concerns, I suppose, is of like it seems to be like a never-ending sort of amount of money that we seem to be accumulating, and I would really be able to support the finance report if we could say agree on capping the figure at a point of I don't know, there's a range of between 510 to 710,000 pounds. So I'm just putting that out.
Okay, well that can't be done at this meeting because we don't know what the budget is going to look like.
No, but I mean, sort of at some point could we
consider? Your view is that is certainly something you can put forward to when we actually see the figures and we see what is being recommended in terms of both the general reserve and the earmarked reserve. Okay. Any others? You've got to remember, we're a bit like the Treasury, and we look after the money, but there's a number of the Environment Committee tends to spend it. And the budget is when we find out what their plans are. Or rather, it's when all the plans are pulled together and you see what the cumulative impact is.
Sorry, Chair, just to answer the previous question, in 10.6 it does say that the guidelines that we've all got should cover our gross expenditure of between 5 and 7 months. This level would currently be between 510 and 710,000 pounds. So we're complying with the guidance we've got from...
Yeah, we're well within what the government says we should have. Yeah. And I keep referring this to you. If you want a case where people didn't think reserves were important. Kids company. They kept saying, no, it doesn't matter, because we'll get more. And they knew they had a reserve problem for years. So.
And indeed, sorry Chair, and indeed things like I know it wouldn't affect us as a town council, but the sinkhole in St Albans can be a huge draw on reserves of somebody if the insurance companies don't pay.
Yeah. Well, particularly given we run the common, all those trees.
Yeah. So it is.
There's a huge storm. Not entirely sure, you know. The insurance companies all that.
So we do it to a second notice and become one notice.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm preempting where you're going, but 2.2 says, consider a target for the precept. I suggest we aim at this stage for 0, which was the last 3 years, wasn't it? Certainly on page 80. And we say at this stage, we aim for 0 precept, with the officers an idea where we're going.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to be more than 2 or 3% anyway.
No, I mean,
I can't see it going up.
Inflation's very low at the moment, so.
it would be hard to justify anything that doesn't relate to CPI or RPI, isn't it?
It would be, yeah. We're quite right, people are quite right with them.
As long as we put the word in at this stage, gives us a bit of flexibility to play with it.
Yeah, but remembering, I think, is it 8 years now we haven't increased the precept?
Yeah.
So good management.
We tend to run with district council, but they're always after us, so we don't know, do we? We're behind them all the time.
There's a month's difference, but what we'll try and do this year is get a view of where they think they're going.
Yeah, it's useful.
Yeah, because county sometimes comes in after district, which makes it less tough for everybody. Okay, so can we agree the budget process and timetable for 2016-17? A show of hands, please. So that's agreed. Can we note the influence and pressures on the town council budget? Yep. Can we agree the inflation assumption set out in 5.2? The guidelines for standing committees to review budgets and any growth items aligned in paragraph 5.5. Can we approve that, please? Yes. And can we approve the level of general reserve as set out in 10.6? Okay, thank you. And can we consider a 0 increase target for the precept? 0% increase. Okay, that gives you the basis to get the first thing done.
So I endorse Councillor James' recognition of all the hard work that's gone in to get to this stage.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a very detailed report, it does make sense.
I mean, this is a very complex, difficult thing, and I've seen. I've been in meetings with people who have budgets put to them, and nowhere near as well thought through as this. It can be very difficult. Yeah.
So I think I'd like to note that this is probably the most important piece of work that we have to do.
Yes.
And legally have to do it as well.
Absolutely.
Is it possible to do that? What happens next for the dates going forward?
Yeah, let me run through it for the record.
Sort of addendum to this.
The first look tonight, Environment Committees on the 18th of November, they'll approve the draft detailed budget, i.e. what they want to spend and what costs they have already agreed going forward. That will then go into the budget. Our next policy and finance meeting is on the 9th of December. We will get the first draft of the budget at that meeting and we'll debate the first draft of the budget. We'll approve a medium-term financial plan which will be based on that. Yeah. And at that meeting, we'll set a precept for 2016-17, agree at a year, and recommend that to Council. Okay? That's on the 9th of December. 13th of January, we'll have the P&S have another meeting. Review any amendments following the December submitted prior to recommendation to council. What that means is we're trying to find out what the district's going to do. And we're looking at any changes to contracts or anything. By then, there might be more information about what's happening to inflation, etc., or anything which the government is saying about that. That can then be built into it. So it's another scan of the environment to see if anything's changed. That's built into that. And it goes to council on the 25th of January, where we send them a budget for them to agree, disagree, approve, not approve. Yeah, that's 2 months before the end of the year, when it all kicks off. That gives time for, if there is a problem with the budget, we would have an emergency council meeting 2 or 3 weeks later.
Can I, sorry, Chair, the reason why council's at the end of January is there is a legal deadline that we have to submit our precept to the district council, so they can let the council set.
Yeah.
As long as the precept's set, you can fit the budget around that, but that's the critical thing that must be set at that January meeting to go to district council. To be fair, all the years I've been here, it's always been done and gone through.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Moving on. Budgetary control. We're just being asked to note and approve the report. And the note is telling us the actual expenditure and income against budget for 2015-16 from April to September 2015. So it's your actuals against budget. Any questions? No? Yes?
Yes, please. Can you just put in the direction of where would the income we get from highways together, what does that fall under?
Doesn't go in here. No, it gets out of here because it's a separate little area where we have a commitment from the county council to X value of work. We then do the works and recharge county council accordingly for what we've incurred. It doesn't fall within.
So zero sum.
Yeah, it does fall within our budget.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Any issues? No. No? Okay, can we note and approve this? Thank you. Right, external audit. The recommendations are to resolve to council that the auditor's annual return for 2014-15 is approved. The council note the single issue arising from the external auditor's report about the treatment of investment, and that the action proposed by the clerk in response to the auditor's comment is considered and approved. Any questions on this?
Yes, on page 92, it says, what do we recommend you to do? And it says the council need to determine and be able to demonstrate the characteristics of the fund, carry no risk to capital, etc. I'm just wondering where we were on that statement.
In my opinion, and colleagues' opinions in other parish councils, we've done our accounts correctly. That has been challenged by our external auditor BDO, who's the only external auditors that have challenged it. Parishes that have got other auditors have not raised it as an issue. What we're going to do now is, because we have this process through JPAG, the Joint Consultative Committee, who set the practitioner's guidance notes for us, to lobby them to make an opinion and further guidance so that we can get it right for this year.
Okay.
The point I'd make is that the audit for last year's accounts are done and dusted. This is just their opinion on one point, which we've treated the same way for the last few years, but this year they've decided to challenge it. And we're going to challenge their challenge, I suppose.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, also on page 92, we're removing £100,000 from reserves and cash at bank and report this amount as an investment. So can you just clarify what that means? Is that earmarked reserves?
No, this is just how you record it, it's not what you actually do. It's just recording.
In the annual return which went to council back in June, there's 9 boxes, and we had to put figures in against each of those. Box 8 and 9 were treated as basically short-term investments and long-term investments. We don't have long-term investments, all short-term. So we put the figure in box 8. What the BDO is saying is we should have put that figure in box 9 instead.
They're not telling us to do anything,
No,
they're just telling us to report it differently.
Right, okay.
I'm trying to find it already. We technically got an unqualified report, which is top, isn't it?
It's a standard, what you would hope for.
Yeah, it didn't have anything on it, it was off
No.
disagreement on how we did something.
Yeah, well, there's a disagreement about accounting procedure.
That's all. If they made an opinion that they said something had to be done, they would give us a qualified report, which means that the account will not be signed off.
So well done then to the manager of finance.
Yeah, well done, Paul.
Thank you.
Well done.
10 out of 10.
9.5.
Okay, can I take if there's no more questions, can I take the recommendations? And the audited annual return for 2014, we recommend to council that is approved. Unanimous. The single issue arising from the external auditor's report regarding the treatment of investment is noted. Agreed. And the action proposed by the clerk in response to the auditor's comments is considered and approved. Right. Granted application, Harpenden U3A have put in this request, and they are requesting a grant of £500. Any questions of understanding of their application? No? Any issues? Can I go straight to a vote then? Nobody? Right. Those in favour? Unanimous? I think we talked about this at length last time, so everybody knows. Okay then, that's it for this evening. Thank you all very much.